So why don't you just start off by telling us where we are and who you are?
Okay, you are at Zanatta Winery, and my name is Vigneti Zanatta, and I'm one of the original founders.
And what is the address?
5039 Marshall Road, Duncan. It's in Glenora, which is just southwest of downtown Duncan.
All right, so we have Jim Moody, the winemaker, here with us. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do here?
I'm Jim, winemaker here at Zanatta Winery. Not only do I make wine, I fix all the wells to help look after the vineyards.
Great.
Jack of all trades.
Awesome. Well, nice to meet you, Jim. So what can you tell me about the sort of the history of Zanatta? When did you guys get started? Sort of how did you get from where you were when you first started to where you are today?
We started, I grew up here. It was a dairy farm when my parents moved here in '58 and they bought the property. And I was then born here, and we were dairy farmers until my dad got out of dairy. He kept all of the lamb, but he got into the marble and terrazzo business. And then, of course, I go off to university, and I decided I want to get into agriculture, and I did not want to do animals. So we started experimenting in the 80s with grapevines and growing grapes. Of course, we're Italian background, so my father and mother both grew up in that sort of field, and my mother's family actually do have wineries in Italy. So we started doing that in the 80s. There was an experiment going on with the provincial government during free trade change. There was a lot of changes in the wine industry, so they initiated this research on vinifera grapes in BC. So we were part of that, and our original vineyard is over across the road. We did 1 acre and we tried 30 plus varieties. And in '85, my dad was just like, we got to plant more. This is great. He loved it. And of course, at that time, you couldn't actually get a license for less than 25 acres of grapes. So we were kind of in limbo until I finally graduated in '89, and we applied for a farm gate winery at the time they were called. 1990, they introduced the farm gate winery. And that's pretty much how we wound up in it. We were the first winery on Vancouver Island to actually start doing that. We had 5 acres of vines only at that time. But after that, we saw it was doing really well, so we expanded the vineyards, and now we have 30 planted, about 27 in production.
What can you tell me about the different types of grapes that you have under cultivation here and the different types of wines that you make?
So the first thing we started really planting was the Ortega. So we have still quite a bit of Ortega grape. It's a vinifera grape developed in Germany. And then from there we started planting Auxerrois and Pinot Noir, Pinot Grigio. We have also a Cayuga that is actually a hybrid, but we do a sparkling wine out of it. And that was our first sparkler, and we call it Glenora Fantasia. So it lends itself beautifully to champagne method. So we do, with the Ortega, we'll make a still wine out of the Ortega, but we'll also add it into a blend that we call Damasco, which is quite popular here in the valley. And we also do Pinot Noir, of course. And with our Pinot Noir, we also will make a champagne, so a Blanc de Blanc Brut. And we do the Fantasia, of course, and I think that's it. Sometimes we'll play around with different things. We've got a lot of oddball varieties that we've always had. So Jim, he's our winemaker, he's my husband, and he's got one right now called Carmine that he's been playing around with. And then we also do a red sparkler, Taglio, using Cabernet Sauvignon.
And what is your personal favorite wine of the wines that you produce here?
Oof. Well, I love sparkling wines, so if I can just have sparkling wines, I'd go with that. But, it depends on what I'm eating, the mood, that whole thing. But the Taglio, which is our red sparkler, that one I find pretty exciting.
So obviously you guys are one of the first wineries here in the island, but there's a lot more wineries on the island in the Cowichan Valley, these days. So how have you kind of seen, winemaking and winemaking culture grow and change here in the Cowichan Valley since you guys first got started?
Yeah, well, in the early 90s, it was only pretty much three wineries. We were all pretty small. And now, I think there's 11 wineries, and we also have our own sub-GI, so we are a designated region that's recognized by Group BC. So because we do have a very special climate here in Cowichan as well, compared to anywhere else on the island. And yeah, it's definitely changed and more interesting, a lot more focus on Pinot Noir than when we started. When we started, it was all about Ortega and all these kind of strange varieties. But now we're starting to see Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, a lot more interesting stuff, and still a little bit of sparkler. Yeah, so it's been much, very nice having company.
What are kind of some of the unique opportunities and challenges of having a winery here in the Cowichan Valley, obviously here in Glenora? You know, what does it mean to you to run a winery like this in a place like Glenora here in the Cowichan Valley?
Well, there's a few challenges. Probably Jim could speak much more to that in terms of getting equipment and things more related to production out here, because there are so few of us. There's not a lot of acreage compared to, you know, some of the larger wine regions or the Okanagan, for example. But at the same time, Glenora is a great little community to be in, just because it is such a great community. And we also have another neighbor that grows grapes. They don't make wine, but they do grow grapes. So that's nice to have a little bit of that going on. And yeah.
So you guys obviously have a tasting room here. Can you tell me a bit about what that entails and what that experience for folks is like?
Yeah, so we're drop-ins, so you don't need an appointment to come by. And we have inside the old farmhouse, we've converted it to a tasting bar, and you can come in and Chris will do a tasting and try most of our wines. Yeah, some of the sparklers aren't always open, but everything else is. Or you can just sit down out on the patio and have a glass of wine, or just your tasting. And yeah, it's a really nice afternoon.
And are you guys open every day? Like, what's the kind of hours?
We're open Wednesday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we are usually only open beginning of May to the end of September. So that's the season. And then the winter we're closed. We have a wine club, which of course we still do events here and there for that.
So obviously outside of your life here as a vintner, what are some of your kind of other favorite aspects of life here in the Cowichan Valley?
Well, for one thing, I love that we can grow so much. We have a lot of figs here. We have chestnuts. You can grow almost anything. I can't grow lemons yet, but
give it time.
I love that it's definitely a nice warm summers, easy winters. And I love that you can just, in a few minutes, be in the ocean and go for a swim or the river. I don't usually swim in the river, but some people do, but the ocean's wonderful. Yeah, and there's a lot of hiking. There's a lot to do. And Glenora is really nice because we've got the great trail back here. We get a lot of cyclists coming by, tasting wine after they've been out riding. We sometimes even have horses with their riders come by and do a tasting. So yeah, there's a lot of different things to do out here. So
great, thank you.